Hello and welcome to Project Trade. It is the trading highlights show and we are looking at a technical trading strategy. For this strategy we'll have two indicators signaling our trade entries, nothing too overtly advanced. First up we've got the 200 period exponential moving average. It's looking like this, a slow moving price assessment that we're hoping gives us a concrete view of the long-term price direction. We've gone for the exponential moving average to increase the weighting given to the more recent price data, which may prove useful with such an extensive look back. And for our second indicator, we've got the Bill Williams masterpiece, the awesome Oscillator. It's a zero line crossover and it's calculated by simply subtracting a 34 period moving average from a 5 period moving average. I know, my mind was blown too. Genius. So the histogram bars themselves just measure the difference between the two moving averages. You can't change any of the inputs apart from the colors of the histogram bars, so you take it as it's given to you. There are more detailed videos on both the awesome oscillator and the EMA linked in the video description, but let's find out how we're going to use them for our specific entry criteria. For the 200 period average, we're going to use it as a basic filtering system by saying that if price is closed above it, then we're only going to take buy trades. And if price is closed below it, then we're only going to take sell trades. And for our awesome oscillator, it will be an entry signal when the histogram value closes across the zero mark. So we will enter a buy trade if it closes above zero and the EMA clears us, or a sell trade if it closes below zero with the EMA giving us the go ahead there. And just to clarify this, it is only when the awesome oscillator initially closes over zero, after that first histogram bar only. For example, if the awesome oscillator closed below zero, but price is still above the EMA, we are locked out of that move permanently. Even if on the second histogram bar of the awesome oscillator, price closes across the EMA, satisfying that criteria, we will not take it, as we will assume that we have already missed a key part of the move. It is quite strict to not allow it any time at all to catch up, but we're doing it to avoid a lot of trades in those times when price is ranging up and down in the whipsaw, churning around, constantly crossing the EMA above and below it. Here's some example entry signals that we would take. For both those buy signals there where it crosses above zero on the awesome oscillator, we've got the price also above the 200 EMA, so we're happy to jump in on those. Then over on the right you can see when the histogram crosses below zero, the price too has closed under the EMA, so we'll be able to get in a sell trade there. We're also going to have to manage our money somehow, and I don't think that we can just rely on the awesome oscillator for that as well. So we'll lean on our good friend, the average true range indicator. Here's what it looks like. It's one of those single line oscillators and it's measuring volatility in the market. That figure in the top left, that's the ATR value, and it is the average price movement high to low across the last 14 candles. We can then use that value to determine our stop loss and take profit levels. There's an example of what it looks like on the price chart with levels set out at 1 times the ATR value from our entry price for that take profit and stop loss. You can see how utilizing these sort of levels can give your trades space to maneuver, but it isn't going to let them run forever. That's the ATR basics, so how are we going to use it in the strategy? First off, we're going to split our trades into 2 sub trades each. Classic trick. Subtrade A, that's going to be a 2 times average true range value for the stop loss and just a 1 times ATR value for take profit. Looks and sounds psychotic, maybe it is, but we are trying to see if we can get a high win rate and snag quick profits when we do get in those trades. Since we're using trend indicators though, we do want to give it a chance to try and run to the good, so our subtrade B will be using a trailing stop loss, which will also begin at 2 times the ATR value from our entry price. Each of those subtrades will be at a 0.5% capital risk for a 1% risk total per trade. Also, if the awesome oscillator line recrosses zero, that will be a signal for us to close the trade. But we won't close the trade just for the price reversing across the EMA, because again, we don't want to get caught out too much in a range. We have enough risk management here already. It's all going down on a 15-minute time frame, and we're going on Forex in a battle of Europe versus the Pacific. With the 15-minute time frame, we don't want to be stuck with just one chart because we may have to wait a very long time for a signal to come. So we will be looking at 3 separate pairs. And we also don't want to jam our risk up too much using the same currencies but just with a different counter currency. So we are going for 6 unique currencies within our 3 pairs. It'll be the Euro Aussie dollar pair, the New Zealand dollar Swissy pair, and the pound yen, aka the guppy. Everything will go in the journal because we do like to learn from what we try, so we'll recap through that after some trades. I've got pretty mixed confidence in this one, but let's see how we get on in the trading platform. Just coming up to 10:15 here, and we've got our 3 charts pulled up. On the left, we've got the Euro Aussie dollar. In the center, we've got the New Zealand dollar Swiss franc. And on the right, we've got our pound yen pair, that guppy there. All of them with the 200 exponential moving average and the awesome oscillator pulled up. And it looks like on all three of them during the Asian session, we would have got some good profits. If we first just look at the Euro Aussie dollar, and let's zoom in, we can see we would have got in at the start of this one. It is coming to reverse now, a low there of about 50 pips, so almost certainly would have been profit for us there. Now let's have a quick look at the New Zealand dollar Swiss franc. Just looking at this bar, yeah, that was a little bit positive there, so we would have got in at the start of this one. Not that it really matters if we got in at this one or that one. So our ATR would have been 5 pips, so we would have had profit taken there almost immediately on the one trade. And then the other one would have gone all the way up here and then come back down 10 pips. So that'd be about there. A lot of profit to be had there. And finally, let's just have a look at this pound yen over here on the right. So here we can see we would have entered right at the bottom of this candle there and got in on that run up about 25 pips to the top there. We definitely would have been able to take profit on our first sub trade. Definitely then in the Asia session, good runs on all these pairs. Hopefully we can see that replicated in the London session. But at the moment, it could actually be a while before we get into a trade. All these are going to either take a good time to get back across there and get back across the price, or they'll have to cross over and then cross back. Here's most of our economic calendar. I say most because we can't actually fit it all on one screen. There has been quite a considerable amount going on today. Not going to be able to touch on everything, but let's skim through some of them. Japanese unemployment rate is just a little bit of a beat for them there, 2.8% against 3% forecast. Industrial production month on month though, negative 1.5% instead of the positive 6.7 forecast. Really disappointing for them there. Over in China, manufacturing and non-manufacturing purchasing managers index coming in a little bit weaker than expected. Manufacturing 50.1 against 51 expected, and non-manufacturing 47.5 against 52.8 expected. So that was a bit of a miss. Building approvals month on month, a lot less than expected in Australia there. That's a negative 8.6 instead of a positive 6 that was forecast. France's consumer price index, the inflation measure, that came in worse than expected, 0.6 inflation against the forecast of 0.3. Yesterday it was flat over in Germany, it was 0.0% against 0.7%. As I said then, I think a lot of the central banks will be preferring a slower rate here. France would have preferred a 0.1 or a 0 flat, just to slow it a little bit, as there are a lot of people getting on edge about inflation at the moment. France on the euro again, their GDP quarterly and yearly coming in about as expected, a little bit of a beat on the quarterly, 1.1 against 0.9, but the yearly coming in on the nose. Although their consumer spending is down quite a bit, negative 2.2 compared to 9% forecast. PPI as well there, month on month France again, really big miss, 1.3% instead of 0.6%. So that could mean more CPI coming down the line for them if the PPI is up now. And so that's everything that's happened so far. But what does the rest of the day hold for us? Just under an hour, 10:55, we'll have the unemployment rate coming out of Germany on the euro. Is that going to affect us on our Euro Aussie dollar pair? It might a little bit if there was a big miss, but I can't see anything having a major impact there. Germany, the biggest economy of the euro, but still one of many. It'd have to be a drastic miss to suddenly change trend direction or put a big move in. Then we got plenty coming out of Italy throughout the midday as well. 11 o'clock, their GDP quarterly. 12 o'clock, CPI coming in month on month for them. As well, at the same time, you've got the Eurozone CPI coming in as well. That's them as a whole. So that one will certainly be interesting to watch. And then an hour later, Italy put out their PPI as well. So how much inflation are the producers facing? Mid-afternoon, this stuff, India, Brazil, South Africa, not going to affect us at all. Doesn't really have a major knock-on effect, even if they were to miss or beat by quite a margin. And as we get to the end of the day, we've got those North American numbers coming through. Canada first at 3:30, GDP, the monthly, the quarterly, and the yearly all coming in. So that'll be impactful for the Canadian dollar, which we're not trading, so we won't see any impact from that. Very unlikely. Still though, Justin Trudeau called that snap election coming up next month, so possible that he might be able to brag about these figures if they were quite a beat. Not that voters want to hear about GDP. You could say the economy is doing well. Between 4 and 5 o'clock then, a drip feed of 3 US dollar numbers, HPI composite 20 year on year. That's not going to have any impact on us at all. 4:45, the Chicago Business Barometer. Again, even though it's on the dollar, not likely to have an impact. If we were going to see an impact on one of our non-US dollar currencies, it would likely be from the Consumer Confidence Index. And back in the Eurozone, 5:40 p.m. in Germany, we've got the Bundesbank Executive Board member Morderer making a speech there. Could have an impact, could have an increase on volatility, but I would say it wouldn't have much movement over the price there. As you can see though, there will be quite a bit of a drip feed of information coming throughout the day, starting with our German unemployment rate in 54 minutes now. Let's get back onto the chart and see where our technicals are. Not a lot of change, but some of this stuff is going in the right direction for us. So if we look at the outside pairs, the euro, Aussie dollar here, price coming up, that's what we want to see, because we want to see a zero line cross either above the price or see it come back down. We don't want to go the whole day without a trade. But as you can see here on the New Zealand dollar Swiss franc, these awesome oscillator stretches can really last, each of these bars, 15 minutes. So that's an 8-hour run so far it's on. Maybe it'll go another 8. Over on the right, Great British Pound Yen, almost the reverse of the Euro Aussie dollar. Price coming back down, and we're hoping for the reverse. We want that cross over price and over the awesome oscillator. Ideally at the exact same time, giving us identical signals would be perfect. Not that there's anything wrong with not taking trades, because jumping in can easily just cost your bank balance. Let's face it with optimism though. Let's believe that we are going to get that trend, and maybe it will come. Just coming up to 11 o'clock now, we are expecting these German unemployment numbers to come out. Price doing exactly what we want it to on these outside charts still, moving upwards on the euro dollar towards the moving average, towards that zero line on the awesome oscillator, and then the reverse on the pound yen. It is coming down, and quite sharply. Hopefully it doesn't cross the awesome oscillator before it crosses price, because that will not be an entry signal for us then. We'll have to wait. Germans getting back to work then. If we are going to see an impact from these unemployment numbers, it would be slightly beneficial to the euro, which is what we would want. They're down to 5.5% unemployment compared to 5.8%. Just a couple minutes after that, quickly chasing, we got the quarterly GDP coming out of Italy. They were bang on with their forecast. That is 2.7% growth on the quarter. This awesome oscillator is coming down quicker than the prices. So hopefully it crosses zero and then comes back over to resume an overall trend. Hopefully this is just a retracement and we can get in on a reversal upward. Same on the euro Aussie dollar, the awesome oscillator. The increase on that is definitely outpacing the increase on the price compared to the moving average. That 200 average has got a long way to go still. So maybe we want that zero cross and then the reversal back over for a continued sell-off over here and a continued buy-in on the pound. The clock strikes 12 and we do just about see the zero line crossover occurring on the pound yen. Price of course comfortably above the EMA, so we won't be able to get an entry signal off that even if it does close over. It just comes positive again though. It's really floating the line at the moment. But let's have a look at these inflation numbers coming in. Italy a little bit hotter than expected, 0.5 against a forecast of 0.1. When you see the forecast for the total Eurozone, they've predicted it's actually going to be deflationary. Yeah, I didn't think so. Core CPI coming in there at 0.3% against a forecast of negative 0.4. And they've got the standard CPI monthly forecast at negative 0.1. It's probably going to come in at least 0.3 or 0.4. Let's just wait for that one. And there's the CPI month on month coming in at 0.4%. Very optimistic for the forecast to think there would be a deflationary environment with what we're seeing out and about in the world. So we just jump back into our charts though. The crucial period that we're seeing here is going to be on the Great British Pound Yen. It's very choppy changey. If it closes beneath zero, suddenly we are on alert then for it coming back above the zero line and us getting a buy signal. Let's zoom in on it here. If it just starts to trend upwards again here and doesn't cross below zero, obviously no entry signal per our system. But it could be approaching for us on that pound yen, the guppy. That awesome oscillator, it does remain above zero on this pound yen pair though, which means we continue to wait for a zero line crossover to see. Price quite volatile the last few periods. Now again on the guppy, price comes down a lot And we do actually see this time that the awesome oscillator is quite a bit below. If it closes like that, that will be a crossover. Price still above the EMA, so not an entry for us, but it does get us a step closer. Just after 1 o'clock now, pound yen awesome oscillator continues below zero, but the price has come back up, so we might see it go up in that direction and get a crossover to the buy side potentially. We've also almost got a crossover here on the New Zealand dollar Swiss franc in the middle, going across that zero, very close there. If price comes down for a couple more periods, that will certainly happen. Non-entry signal for us, but just like with the guppy, gets us closer to getting back into a potential buy trade. It's the last of our European numbers coming in as well. Italy's producer price index forecast at 1.5, so already quite a bit expected. If the CPI from today is anything to go on, the PPI will be even more than that. Shouldn't have any impact on the euro though. We haven't seen any of these CPIs really make any adjustment at all with the movement. It's just stayed very rangy this whole time, even though it missed forecasts by quite a bit on some of them. Yeah, and it does come in higher than expected. 2.1% on the month-to-month PPI for Italy. Not good to be that high, but hey ho, is what it is. Just gone 2 o'clock here, possibly these signals getting a little bit closer as we crack on through the afternoon. There could be a zero line crossover coming here on the euro Aussie dollar, but if it does come, it's likely that the awesome oscillator will cross before price gets above the EMA. So that would be no signal for us there. Let's wait and see what happens. Price has pushed a lot the last 30 minutes or so after this range here. Came up a little bit in this wedge pattern and then did break above it. Meanwhile, New Zealand dollar Swiss franc, very rangy there, not much in the last couple hours at all, and it continues to just float around above. Even if it floats to the downside on the awesome oscillator, a long way away from that average still. Price making moves here over on the pound yen. We should get the entry. It's likely that there's already enough momentum if this is where it closes, but we are very early into the candle, still 13 minutes to go thereabouts. And we're also seeing the zero line crossover on the euro Aussie dollar over here as well. If price could get up enough and close over there, that would be an entry signal for us. But if it doesn't, and the awesome oscillator closes like this, we will be stuck out of that one. At that point, we'd really be looking for it to sell off and get back below the zero for an entry there. And we do miss out on that euro Aussie dollar trade as the awesome oscillator just closed above zero, but price still below zero. We can see, let's get on this Great British Pound yen pairing and we'll zoom right in. And you can see the bar is just ever so slightly above. The value at the moment is 0.0039. So if it closes like that, or if it closes anywhere above zero, that is our buy signal. So for the first time today, we are looking at a potential entry here. 2 minutes until the close of this candle, and it does look as though we're just going to sneak in with a zero line crossover at the moment. So let's pull up our ATR. Currently sat at 10.6 pips, so if we were using that, twice the risk, 21.2 pips to our stop loss. Okay, here we go, and we are going for 10.6. It's better to go for the full candle there, because this one, you see it drops immediately, but that's because it doesn't have a full set of data for the candle. So we've got that 21.2 pip stop loss. There's our risk on screen now. We're going to get these two sub trades open. And there we go, we are in both of these with a 0.5% risk, 1% risk total, or around about $80, just over that. Stop loss for this first trade, as we said, 212. Take profit, just the 1 times ATR value. Going to try and get in there quick and grab those profits. So there's that one there. Now with our trailing stop, if we go and put it on as a trailing stop right now at 212 points, so we say, okay. It's not actually going to set it straight away because the system, it doesn't want to set it until you go that far into profit. So for now, we are going to set it just also at that stop loss there. What we'll do, if this take profit triggers, we will trail this up. So then it'll only be 1 times ATR behind at that point. And then once it gets 212 points or 21 pips thereabouts into profit, that's when the trading stop loss will automatically take over. That's if we get that far into profit. We can close down this ATR. It does feel good to get into a trade now at least. Took about 5 hours into the session, a little bit longer than usual. They are slightly off from one another as we missed out on the entry by 1 pipette, even though we were pretty sharp on it. Price heading pretty sharply towards our stop loss here. Can barely see that take profit level there at all. Let's Still can't see it. Let's zoom out a little bit. Can see it there a touch. Still not. There we go. Wow. So for it to take our profit, it has got to get to a level that it hasn't actually been to in the last 2 weeks. Just above this sort of area of resistance here. Hence why we're seeing price come down quite a bit and edging ever closer towards our stop loss there. Very tight, and there they go. Both stop losses triggered. That is a 1% loss. Let's pull up the trade, see exactly where we got in. Yeah, and it was basically right at the very top there. All of this was enough momentum to get the awesome oscillator from under to back over, but it just took 2 candles right at the open of the New York session, and we have been wiped out here. Whether it bounces off this level as support is yet to be seen, but even if the awesome oscillator closes across, we will need price to be below the moving average for it to signal us in. Still $82 down for the day so far, just after that one trade. A lot of waiting to get knocked out right away. This is what I mean here. If we go on the pound yen again here, let's zoom in and we see awesome oscillator crossed well below zero. If price has got enough gumption in it to move past this and close beyond there as well, that will be a sell entry signal for us. So we'll have to watch that one closely. Not too much on the other ones, although we are seeing price plummet on the New Zealand dollar over the last few periods here against the Swiss franc, and similarly the Australian dollar getting weaker, the euro on the move here as it gets above that average now. But let's get back on and have a closer look at this pound yen for a bit. And so what had looked unlikely now seems almost a certainty, as we've got 2 minutes before the close of this candle. We're going to get a double cross here, across from the EMA and across from the awesome oscillator, both on the same period. I don't know how we feel about this entry. There has been a lot of downward momentum already, but we are absolutely going to take it. So let's pull up that average true range indicator. And with 45 seconds to go, the ATR is giving us a reading of 11.6 pips. That is what we will go for with our risk management. And there we go. We are ready for entry here with our 2 sub trades. You can see our risk calculated on screen now. And there we go, we're in. We missed them by a pipette again. We try to be quick with it, but still miss out. Let's have a look. Our stop loss then. 232 there and 116 there. That's just 1 ATR value for the take profit. And this one will be our trailing stop loss trade, which we will manually move along. For now, we'll set it at 232 for the stop loss. So you can see that there, the stop loss and the take profit. Let's see if there's more momentum left in this. Could easily see it rebounding. Price coming back up against us as soon as we entered there. If anyone was curious about the Canadian GDP numbers, how they came in, the month on month was a good beat. 0.7 actual against negative 0.2 forecast. Same with the quarterly, only negative 0.3 actual compared to negative 1.9 forecast. Although they did miss the year on year with only 8% actual against the 19.5% forecast. Generally though, not too bad a numbers come from them. Anyone trading on the Canadian dollar might see that going a little bit stronger if the banks want it to. Price had made a move towards our stop loss, but now currently just hovering a little bit kind of close to our entry price, but still in a losing position at the moment. Let's just have a look at those 3 charts. New Zealand dollar, Swiss franc, price in the awesome oscillator still coming down, but still above the EMA. And we've got this awesome oscillator on the Euro Australian dollar comfortably moving along above the zero. So no signal for us there either. Let's get back onto that pound yen. That's where our action is. Definitely looks like it's making its move for the stop loss now. Price on the rise. And there goes one of them. It didn't go that extra there. It does though. Knocks them both out. That's another full 1% loss there. So let's have a look. Let's pull that trade up. So there we go. That's where we got in, right about there. And you can see the run up started. We did come close to getting into profit just about here, but alas, that hard run up came and did knock us out. We don't want to let it run too far. We did give it 2 times ATR value stop loss. Maybe we should be thinking that 3 or 4 is a better go of it. Even when we put our take profit at 1 times ATR, it hasn't moved even half a times ATR in our favor. So at the moment, we just have to keep trying with the signals that we're getting, see if we get something better outside of the range. We might get enough momentum here that the awesome oscillator crosses back above here and price gets to about here, and maybe we get in a buy trade right at the resistance level again. We'll see how that goes. Price coming down sharply on that pound yen chart over here on the right. You can see it knocked us out up there, right at the top, and now it's coming back down. Here it comes. 5:10 now, no signals on any of them. Price continuing to come down a little bit on the pound yen there. And we've just pulled up the economic calendar to have a look at these US numbers. Chicago Business Barometer and the Consumer Confidence Index both missing by quite a bit there. The barometer 66.8 against the forecast 70.1, and the Conference Board Consumer Confidence Index 113.8 actual versus 128.5 forecast. So not the best numbers there for the dollar in terms of the environment out there for business. And we've continued to see an increase in volume as these numbers have come out across the afternoon here. Look at that, the last hour and a half or so really reaching peak volume on all of these pairs. Just turning 6 o'clock now. That volatility on the pound yen, it does continue. It's been very spiky these last couple hours. Really, really rangy. And now this candle's turned red again there. So it doesn't look like we'll be getting that buy trade soon. The New Zealand dollar Swiss franc could be a buy signal coming up over the next few periods if it really pushed hard. It's fought back a lot against that momentum in the last few periods. And in the reverse manner on the Euro Aussie dollar, could be a sell trade coming against the euro if some red candles start coming. Last few periods it's pushed back. I do still think it will be a little bit before we see a good entry signal. So we are going to call it there for today's session. We just had those two losing trades stuck in the range, which you can see over here on the Great Pound Japanese Yen. But we will try and regain those losses with a good trend tomorrow. Session 2 just coming up to 9:45 here in the morning. Got our tri-chart set up again. Some interesting price movements going on. The Euro Aussie dollar been steadily coming down all night. This would have been a really nice trade to be in around here. Since the open of the London session though at 9 o'clock, price has really dropped a big one here. It's just consolidating now at the moment. Could be gearing up for another drop. There's certainly no signal for us there. New Zealand dollar, Swiss franc. This would have seemed like a good trade, but actually if we got in here, there's a chance it could trigger the stop loss. And the pound yen, again, last 30-45 minutes, really caught on fire, and the pound going up heavily, reached big highs up there before pulling back a little bit. Sadly, still no trade available, and it does look like for all three of them, it could be a while again before we actually get a trade. Hopefully this time, if it does take a while, it's actually worth it by the time we get there. Okay, here's our economic calendar for the day. Quite a lot again, so we're not going to touch on everything. Australia GDP, that's a big one. That came out at 4:30 for them, quarterly and yearly. Both beat expectations. Quarterly just by a little bit, 0.7% against a 0.5% forecast. The yearly coming in at 9.6 against a flat expectation of 0.0 though, so really good win for them there. German retail sales month on month down minus 5.1%. They only forecast a minus 1.3. So that is quite a bit worse than expected. They'll be looking to see that reverse on the run up to Christmas as that begins. And then at 9 o'clock, we did have on the Great British Pound, the house price index from Nationwide coming out month on month and year on year. House prices up 2.1% on the monthly, 11% on the yearly. Did wages go up by 11% in the last year? I don't remember that. Holy moly, that is absolute fire in the housing market. This is all residential as well. So between 10:15 and 11 o'clock coming up, we've got a lot of these European market manufacturing purchasing managers index numbers coming out. In fact, there's GBP at 11:30 as well. It's a real drip feed. Every 15 minutes, half an hour or so, we're getting a new number. The Italian unemployment rate dropped in there at 11 o'clock as well. Have a look for that one on the euro. Not really expecting these to have any impact on the trajectory of price. Total Eurozone unemployment rate, 12 o'clock. Forecast at 7.6 compared to a previous of 7.7. Let's see if they can't bring that down. And then 3 o'clock just after from the Bundesbank, we got President Weidmann making a speech. And at the same time, talking over the president will be Executive Board member Vermeulen. A lot of euro action to come throughout the day. 3 o'clock as well, not going to affect us, but the Brazilian GDP, big one for them. And then when we get to the North American end of the day, even though we're not trading the US dollar, something that might have a knock-on effect is the ADP non-farm employment change, the automatic data processing figures. They basically forerun the non-farm payroll numbers that come from the government. They come out this Friday. You'll see volatility on the US dollar anyway. If there's a big beat or a big miss, could have that knock-on effect onto our currencies. Their market manufacturing PMI numbers also coming out 4:45, that's 15 minutes after Canada's. The ISM manufacturing PMI at 5 o'clock for them. That's seen as a little bit more credible than the market PMI, so that might also see some movement if there isn't already a trend set in motion. Busy day, let's head back onto the tri chart. Don't really know where our next signals are going to come from. All of these are in a current trending motion already, so the Euro Aussie dollar price well below the average and the awesome oscillator well below zero. And then just the reverse for these other two, the New Zealand dollar Swiss franc and the Great British pound yen, both of them with price comfortably above their moving averages, and also the awesome oscillator in full swing as well. So at the moment, pretty uncertain about where this trade is going to come from. We'll just have to wait and see. Almost 5 to 11 here, no closer to a signal on any of these charts, in fact further away. You see over here on the left that Euro Aussie dollar has been coming down even more, so it's just extending the move it's already in. Likewise, the pound has been very strong against the yen here. Look at that last few candles. Really been on a run up here, and that's just accelerating now. It's going to take a while before a move comes on one of these, that's for sure. Here's all those PMI numbers that come out of Europe then. Most of them are missing just by a little bit, no major surprises. Sweden, Spain, Switzerland, Italy and Germany and the Eurozone as a whole all slightly under. Only 61.4 against 61.5 for the Eurozone as a whole. Norway were exactly as forecast. And France and the United Kingdom beat theirs by just a touch. Meanwhile, 11 o'clock Italian unemployment came in at 9.3 against 10.1 forecast. They'll be happy with that. They'll want to see that 9.3 get even lower. But none of this having any real impact on the currencies. The volume has just remained high throughout this morning session. But we do start to see price bounce back from some of these highs. So it's getting up a bit now on the euro. It's getting down a bit on the New Zealand dollar and down a bit on the pound. These can't go forever, so it's just going to take us quite a bit to get there. Not a lot going on these charts. The momentum does continue to come away from the previous trend. So at the moment on the current trajectory, the next zero line crossover would either be on the Euro Aussie dollar here, going above zero, or on the New Zealand dollar Swiss franc going below zero. Whether those would actually give us an entry signal at the moment, it seems unlikely, as price will still be on the other side of the moving average. But perhaps they flip back again to give us that entry signal. That Eurozone unemployment rate at 12 o'clock did come in just as forecast at 7.6%. Slight improvement on the previous 7.8%. So current Eurozone employment headed in the right direction, although still higher than they would like it, I'm sure. Just past 1:15 here, and we can see on the New Zealand dollar Swiss franc pairing, if we zoom in, that awesome oscillator, it did just close below zero. Not a signal for us as price is still above the EMA. However, we can be ready now that if price reverses again and carries on its overall uptrend, we can get in on that zero line crossover. It's a big if whether or not that happens again soon. However, it is a little bit of a step closer for us. 2:10 now, still not a lot of price movement over the last hour or so. Waiting for that opportunity still as we get deeper into the afternoon. Just under 15 minutes now until we get those US dollar ADP non-farm employment numbers. Could prove to bring a little bit more volume in the market and hopefully get some movement going. Last few histogram bars down here on that New Zealand dollar Swiss franc, we have seen them go green. We want to see price bounce up more and more, get across zero and get us in on an entry signal. And here we do see an immediate increase in volatility on these charts. Price moving quite a bit quicker as these ADP numbers now do come out at 3:15. And the numbers are a bit of a miss there. They were forecast at 406,000 jobs to be added, but it was only 374,000. So not ideal for the dollar there. Aside from the volume increase we see on these pairs, I'm not sure the impact knock-on we'll see. But we can see just 4 minutes in to this period, so another 11 minutes to go, and the volume is already getting right up there as one of the highest of the session. And as those candles just closed, we can fully see the increase in volume that comes with those ADP numbers. And the one we'd hoped would be our old reliable has started coming down in price again. It's turning those histogram bars red, and it's making that zero line crossover appear much further away. Let's hope this little bit of green that's showing here is going to continue its way. Meanwhile, on the Euro Australian dollar chart, let's zoom in on this one. And what we can see is that in the last period it did close above the awesome oscillator, price still well below the EMA. If that awesome oscillator crosses below zero, now we get a few red candles, we will have ourselves a sell trade there. And finally, on the pound yen, if we zoom in on this one as well, we can see that it is threatening currently the awesome oscillator to finish below zero, which again gets us closer to that recrossover. If we see price move upward, we could well finish with a buy trade here in a couple periods. Didn't look like these charts were offering much, but now we've got 3 potential entry signals coming up in the next hour or so. And that awesome oscillator, it does close below zero on the pound yen here over on the right hand side. So now if it can get back above zero, we're in. New Zealand dollar Swiss franc comes straight back into its range here, and that's all it's done for a good few hours now. Hasn't moved much outside of this price range. Even with the increased volatility and volume in this area, it still wants to stay within those bounds for a minute. Euro Aussie dollar, if we can get a break through this sort of mini support level here and crack on down, we should get it to recross zero. It is all a waiting game though, and we are waiting. Let's just recap a few of these numbers that have been coming in. Market manufacturing PMI for Canada, they beat their expectations a little bit. The US missed theirs by just a touch, 61.1 against 61.2, so no real impact there. 5 o'clock then we got these ISM manufacturing numbers, the PMI and the employment, both of them missing by a bit, again in the red, and we see that increase in volume come at 5 o'clock when those numbers are released. It's difficult to try and estimate what the impact is going to be off these type of things. If you just think there is going to be increased volatility and so you want to get out of the way, these are the type of things you can watch out for. Let's take a look at that Euro Australian dollar chart over here though. And as we zoom in, this histogram bar right here does look as though it's going to close below zero for the first bar to do so. Price below the EMA, which means we could well finally be getting entry signal at 5:30. With 1 minute to go before the close, it does look like a certainty. Let's zoom in on that Euro Aussie dollar and let's pull up our ATR. Currently showing 11.7 pips, so that will be our reading. 2 times that, 23.4 pips to the stop loss. Our risk will be based off that. We got just over $8,000 in the account, and we'll have our 2 sub trades at 0.5% risk each. We do see the close happen. We can see the reading on that one was positive. It's just closed there, so our risk is on screen now. Let's get into these trades. There's our 2 trades. Again, we try and be quick, but we do get filled at slightly different prices for these. We'll just treat this one as sub trade A. So we're going 234 there for 2 times ATR and 117 times there for 1 times. Set our trading stop loss here as a custom 23.4 pips, 234 points. But we'll also set this stop loss as well because it won't set it, as we've said, until after we get that far into profit. So we'll manually trade it a little bit as we go. And that's us in our trade. Now we just hope that this can at least proc. It's going to have to break through this support level. If it does go, then there's a good chance that the trade and stop loss will move pretty far with it. It's moving in our favor slightly now. About 35 minutes into this trade, and it really does look like it's going to go against us. We got in around about the bottom in the end, it's going to look like, but we will have to wait and see if this price keeps surging. There is always a chance for a reversal. 6:15, as price still lingers around our stop loss, let's have a look at our other charts, see what's going on. Both of them nearing a signal to give us a buy trade. Price coming back down on the New Zealand dollar Swiss franc though, and that histogram bar turns red. We are seeing a succession of green histogram bars on the pound yen, so if that continues we could get a buy entry there. Let's get back on the Euro Aussie dollar though, as price does come back in our favor a little bit. Good stuff. Just turned 7 o'clock. We're still in a loss on our trade at the moment. It's ranging right between our entry price and our stop losses. Not done much at all in the last 45 minutes or so. And same with these other 2 charts. We might be getting buy signals soon, but price is really not doing anything definitive. They're both showing very whipsaw-like action. So even if we do get in a trade, I'm not super confident about the direction it's going to go for us. Price coming kindly for us the last few periods. Turned red again on the histogram, and we're actually in profit for just a little bit there. We're floating above and below it. It's nice to see though after it got so close to our stop loss. And incredibly edging pretty close to our take profit now. And there it does trigger for us our take profit. So what we can do with this one is manually trail that stop loss. Let's shift it to 1 times ATR value. That means that we shouldn't really lose money on the trade as we've already captured 1 times ATR worth of profits. If we do get 2 times ATR into profit, then that's when that trailing stop loss will take over automatically, and from then on every pip will trail that stop loss. Call it at 8 now, and on the New Zealand dollar Swiss franc chart, we are actually getting a buy signal to enter. That's the first histogram bar there that's closed positively. But because of the time of day we're at now, we've been on the charts for about 10 hours now already. So we are going to, in fact, decline this trade. And that'll be the same if any buy signal comes on the Great British Pound Yen chart. We're just going to stick it out with our Euro Australian dollar trade and see how that finishes up. Not a lot going on with our trade the last 45 minutes or so. Price really just ranging. A lot of volume has left the market compared to late afternoon, early evening. If we had entered that New Zealand dollar Swiss franc trade so far, it would be doing absolutely nothing. Would have been sat right at our entry price the entire time. 9:15 and price coming a little bit better for us, but still not reaching new lows, so we can get a bit of a push out of it before the end of the day. Price just ranging the last few periods, has come up towards our entry price again, still in profit a little bit at the moment though. It is just coming up to 11 o'clock now, which does mean our session will be over. We have a choice between either manually closing it down or letting our trailing stop loss run through the night and see how it goes. And so I think we will go for the latter. It does mean if the awesome oscillator crosses over 0, meaning that we would have to manually close the trade at that sign. We won't be able to take that signal because we won't be at the platform. But I'd like to see how this trade fares with the trailing stop loss. So we will pick this one back up in the morning for session 3. Session 3 of our awesome oscillator EMA strategy. We can see here that trailing stop loss did trigger at its point last night. So we did have a 1 times ATR stop loss. Something interesting though is that this triggered in a very strange location. We can see that the price that it did trigger at was 1.60841, which is there, and that is the time that it triggered, 12:05, but it doesn't make any sense. It didn't hit there until this time, so not sure what happened there, whether it glitched us out at that point or whether it triggered later and just misread where it was. But either way, not feeling like we've got an accurate showing there. If we were in this last trend right here, this would have been a nice one so far. We'd start there, come all the way down. That would definitely be a guaranteed profit for us right now. Let's have a look at this New Zealand dollar Swiss franc. Zoom in there. Also looks like it probably would have been quite nice. What's that? That's a 0, so we'd enter around about here, and then so far we'd be on a run up there. On the Great British Pound Yen, let's have a look at the last run. Start from the actual open. That certainly would have propped our 1 times ATR take profit. The other one would probably still be going at the moment, so not guaranteed profit. Still though, it does seem we've missed some potentially good moves already through the night. Could be the waiting game again for us. But let's see what's in the economic calendar for the day. There is our calendar for the day. What have we had so far? Korean GDP, quarterly and yearly, coming in about as expected. A little bit over, 6% yearly against 5.9 forecast. Pretty good for them. And the CPI month on month from there as well. 0.6% instead of the 0.7 forecast. Not ideal, but they'll be happy it beat the forecast. Numbers from the Australian dollar at 4:30 this morning. Home loans month on month coming in less than expected, but their trade balance looking pretty healthy there. The Swiss franc had its CPI numbers month on month, and they've come out pretty nice, 0.2%. The previous month at minus 0.1%. They have been managing to keep their inflation flat at the moment. Had their retail sales year on year come in as well, minus 2.6% compared to a forecast of 13.4. That is quite poor. Also expecting GDP quarterly numbers and yearly numbers about half an hour ago at 10 o'clock. Haven't come through yet, so we'll keep an eye out for those. But what's on the cards for today? 12 o'clock, Producers Price Index month on month for the entire Eurozone. Could see a bit of an impact onto the euro currency. They forecast 0.3%, likely to come in higher than that. It's just based on the other numbers we've seen feeding through this week from the Eurozone. And then this afternoon at 3:30, a lot of North American numbers coming through, particularly US dollar. We got trade balance, non-farm productivity quarterly, unit labor cost quarterly, and the weekly initial jobless claims. So 3:30, even though we're not trading the US dollar, it is likely to see some increased volatility on our charts We'll be into the New York session at that point, something to bear in mind if we get whipsawed out of a trade and want to know why. And last off, to finish the day on the US dollar again at 5 o'clock, factory orders month on month. So not really too much that's going to have a direct impact on us. We'll certainly keep an eye out for that PPI from the Eurozone at 12, and then these US dollar numbers at 3:30. So if we do actually get some entry signals today on our technical strategy, we should be able to take them without worrying that there's going to be too much impact from outside economic indicators. But I do say if, because it is going to be a while before we get an entry signal. If you are trading this strategy, I certainly wouldn't blame you for throwing on a lot more charts and trying to look for some more signals than just the 3. Almost 20 past 11 here, and we're seeing price come off the top quite a bit on that Great British Pound Yen. The 4 is sharp, while the other 2 charts are currently ranging. We did get those GDP quarterly and yearly numbers feed through. They were pretty strong for the Swiss, so they've had good numbers for GDP and CPI today, but not really any positive impact against the strength that's ongoing for that New Zealand dollar. GDP quarterly for the Swiss, 1.8 against 1.1 forecast, and the yearly was 7.7% actual against minus 2.6% forecast, so really strong beat for the Swiss there. They'll be very pleased with that. No signals yet though. Eurozone PPI at 12. There's that month-on-month reading from the Eurozone, the Producers' Price Index, 2.3% actual. That is quite a bit, and that's probably going to come down the pipeline to the CPI. So yeah, I don't know who was forecasting that at 0.3%. Yeesh. These Eurozone inflation expectations this week have been very optimistic compared to what we've seen. Only really Germany managing to keep themselves flat. Everybody else, CPI and PPI, are much higher than they would be fully comfortable with. We could see the euro continue to weaken off the back of that news. Still no signal for us anyway. Not a lot going on at 5-1. Price just coming off those extremes there, bouncing off that high a little bit on the New Zealand dollar, Swiss franc, and same over on the pound yen. Let's hope we do get some reversals over there. The euro Aussie dollar just ranging at the moment. Last couple hours had that big move in the Asia session and now has relaxed itself. Everybody favouring the New Zealand dollar here. It continues its push to new highs. Didn't take much of a pullback. Just after 2 o'clock now, all these prices ranging no closer to a signal. Hopefully the numbers that come through on the US dollar at 3:30 bring some big volume, big volatility, and really set some new moves in motion. About 5 hours into this session now with these 3 charts, no signal for us still. Under 20 minutes now until these US numbers come through. Hopefully that can cause some movement. Here come those numbers. Initial jobless claims looking not too bad, 340,000 against 351,000 predicted. I think the forecasters might have been a little shaky on that one after the big miss yesterday on the ADP jobs numbers. Otherwise, quarterly non-farm productivity, 2.1% against forecast 2.3%, and unit labour cost quarterly 1.3% against 1.0% forecast. So those two not very far out in terms of their predictions there, not enough to create any major change. Also, the trade balance came in a little bit better than expected, negative 70 billion against the forecast of negative 73 billion. All in all though, I think most people will have been watching the jobs numbers and they'll be happy to see that they haven't spiked up above what the forecast was. If you start seeing 380, 400, I think there would have been a little bit of worry ahead of tomorrow's non-farm payroll. As for our technical strategy, still no signals yet. We are patient though, and I don't think there's going to be many people that are making money in these kind of markets here, this choppiness. Yes, we did happen to miss these trends that all started in the Asia market, but since we stepped on the European market, very minimal profits to make from these kind of ranges. And as the first candle since the release of those US numbers closes, we can see the increase in volume that did come with it. It's a high of the day there on the euro Aussie dollar, just about a high on the New Zealand dollar Swiss franc, but very close there. And similarly on the Great British Pound Japanese yen, very close to a high there. I think it misses out maybe by a single tick or so against a couple of these, but very close to an all-time high and certainly an uptick on the more recent volume. It just demonstrates the roll-on of effect from even moderate US numbers. Again though, these signals not going to be coming for us at this rate. Meanwhile, the euro Aussie dollar looks like it wants to drop a little bit more with that downward trend, whereas the Great British Pound yen pair ranging and ranging and ranging some more for the last few hours now at least. And the breakout has come on the pound yen, but it does go up and up. Last period, a big green candle close, and now it's coming right out of the gates strong on this next one here. So that is moving far away from a zero line crossover. This has been the one that I was kind of hopeful for today. Might come back down and we could get a sell signal here. But if you look at these candles, look at the increase in volume that's come with the move. It is looking very unlikely we'll get a signal off there. And same for this one in the reverse. It had been looking like maybe it was going to cross above zero a couple hours ago, but since then back down it comes, and now it's going to reach new lows once more. We can see those US factory orders month on month did miss their forecast by a bit. Predicted at 1.4, came in at 0.4. That was on a previous of 1.5. So a bit disappointing there. But as we are still absolutely no closer to a signal, and it is 5:15, we will end the session there after about 7 hours without a signal on either of these charts. As I said earlier, if you wanted to throw on a lot more charts so you could get more entry signals, more power to you. We will be back for another session on Monday, which will be the 6th of the 9th up here. So we will be back for more trading then. Okay, here we are then, the Europeans against the Pacificas. And it seems on these two left-hand charts here, the Euro Aussie dollar and the New Zealand dollar Swiss franc, we did actually miss a trade on both of them about an hour or so ago. You can't see the moving average. There it is. So moving average coming down. So we had a sell signal for this crossover right here. Should have started there. So going so-so at the moment. And likewise on the New Zealand dollar Swiss franc, you can see the moving average there. So we would have had a buy signal right at the start of that one. That had been going quite nice so far. So we may feel like we've missed those signals again. However, if we look on over to the right, the pound Japanese yen pairing, that is about perfect time. We are seeing this crossover here. That candle is going to close at 11:45, so that's just under 9 minutes, which means unless this absolutely plummets, we've come in at a pretty good time as we can get into a trade straight away. Vindication for all that waiting around on Friday. So we've still got a bit of time before that candle does close, which means we can use that to check out our economic calendar for the day. Not a huge amount going on today. North America having a holiday day, so happy Labor Day to all the Canadians and United Statesians. We've had no data overnight during the Asia session for these Pacific pairs. Factory orders from Germany at 9 o'clock just about an hour and a half ago. Those are looking pretty nice. There was a beat on the month on month, 3.4 against 0.9 forecast. And year on year, 24.4 against 13.9. Very nice as well. Otherwise, at 10:30 in the Eurozone, the biggest economies there, France, Germany, Italy, all giving out their construction PMI numbers. We didn't actually have a forecast, or it hasn't come through here, but compared to the previous, down a little bit for France, down a little bit for Germany, up a lot for Italy. We'll see how that turns out. But they are feeling pretty positive right now in the construction sector over there. And Eurozone as a whole, about the same as the previous, 49.5 against 49.8 previous. Yeah, nothing on the calendar for us. 11:30, we've got the Great British Pound Market Construction PMI. It's not going to have a huge impact. It's just not. We'll check it out because this one does actually have a forecast of 64.9. So we'll see if the Great British people can beat that. Since it's the only thing on for the day, I suppose at 2:30, we'll be watching the Brazilian BCB Focus Market Report pretty closely. Not expecting an impact on any of these currency pairs, but we've got to watch something. Should be very minimal impact, therefore, on our technical strategy. Just over 3 minutes now until the end of this period then. Let's get back into these charts and see if that signal's still happening. Does look so at the moment. These are long gone. The Euro, Aussie dollar, New Zealand, Swiss franc. Those signals, they are not going to come for us for a good while. So we'll check in on those. And for now, we're just going to focus up on the Great British Pound Yen. And there we see it. Let's open up our ATR here. Currently showing as 6.5 pips, so very likely to be our reading there. Price does keep tempting to come back down and maybe flip this over. I'm pretty confident this entry is coming. But if price continues to come down, we could lose it as soon as we got it. Probably better getting in here than somewhere up there though. Jumping up to 6.6 pips there, the ATR. Could go even higher if price comes even lower. Here we go then, 5 seconds to the entry. So we will get 6.6 pips as our ATR, which is 13.2 pips to our stop loss. There is our risk on screen now. Although with this roundup, it might end up being a little bit more than the 1%, but only by a touch. It'd be very close. There's our trades. We are in. So we can just set this stop loss here to 132 points. So we can take one trade and set the stop loss at 2 times ATR and set the take profit at 1 times ATR. And then for our other trade, we can set our trading stop loss as a custom at 132 points and also set the stop loss at 132 points. So we actually have a stop loss going now instead of having to wait for that trailing stop loss. There we are then. That's our trades fully in the go. Price moving against us at the moment, but we've got that 2 times ATR value, so there is room to move. The only potentially frustrating thing I'm looking at the moment is our stop loss down here, and it's right at the very bottom of this support level here. So we can see 1, 2, 3 times at least it has probed through there just for the low, not even for the close. It's just looked through that price and then come back up. Could therefore just have a few periods of coming down, procking the stop loss, and then still treating this as support, bouncing back up, and maybe even taking this take profit level as this candle did here and these ones over here did too. We'll wait and see. Well, here we go then. Our trades just moving into a little bit of profit. No, back to a loss, but they were in profit there just for a second. That was quite nice. Good to see. Price just ranging around our entry there as we are about to get these market CIPS construction numbers. The forecast is quite bullish. Above 50 is the purchasing managers being a little bit optimistic about the future, and below 50 they are a bit pessimistic. So forecast at 64.9 is pretty optimistic for the construction sector. These GBP market numbers then coming in 55.2 actual, quite a bit lower than the forecast, but they do feel like things are coming back a bit. Just after 12, still absolutely nothing going on with price here. It's really just moved into this holding pattern now, getting less and less volatile each 15-minute period. Breakout's got to come at some point. But let's take a look at these other charts and see if we're getting any closer to signals. Both of them doing the same but in reverse. Really the most likely signal we're going to get is through a crossover like there or there, and then it coming back across again. Does seem to be breaking pretty quickly downwards now. Selling pressure taking over, heading right towards that stop loss. Let's get the reversal. And we have got the awesome oscillator now reading below 0. This candle here, it did come up quite a bit towards the end there for the close, but because the awesome oscillator is calculated on the median price, that's the high low divided by 2, having such a low in that candle means it's dragged the awesome oscillator just under. So now we need to see a reverse in price upwards. If it closes under, then we will have to close the trade manually, which might not be a bad thing, could save us some losses. But here comes the green, and there we see it has closed, so we're going to get these trades shut down for about just over 0.5% loss total. So it'd be interesting to see where this one ends up. Let's pull that up there. Yeah, so it's just come down a little bit. We did go into profit for a minute there, but come back down. Let's see if this comes right back up off a level here, whether it continues. I definitely think it's right in general to shut this off now. It's giving another signal. If it does decide to really break upwards, then this will reverse and we'll get back in anyway. Pound yen, the price had gone on a bit of a surge since we closed it, but now it's coming back into that range there. Still a chance we might get another entry signal from a zero line crossover in the next couple periods. And there's also a strong chance on this center New Zealand dollar Swiss franc chart that now the awesome oscillator is going to close below 0. Our moving average is below the price at the moment, so it's not a trade that we can take, but it does put us on watch as price could bounce off of this support level here, and we could see a zero line crossover above the awesome oscillator, getting us into a buy trade. So a couple potential trades on the horizon. And despite some extended upward price movement here on the New Zealand dollar Swiss franc, that awesome oscillator does close below 0. And the pound yen price coming back to the center of the range, but it is threatening that zero line crossover as it edges closer. A couple green periods would almost certainly see that come, probably at about the same level as we got in the last time. And what a return in favor of the New Zealand dollar here, pushing up even more. The awesome oscillator, it is still just below 0, but if we see a strong green candle come again here, even if it just reaches to a high and pulls back, we're still pretty likely to get an awesome oscillator crossover here. Okay, and we are going to get this crossover on the New Zealand dollar Swiss franc. Don't know how excited I am to get in after such a run of momentum, and this is what we're kind of finding with the awesome oscillator here. Let's pull up our average true range there. And we can see they're currently showing at 4.7 pips, so 2 times ATR will be 9.4. Okay, and so we do have our entry there. Price well above the EMA. Awesome oscillator closing above 0. Let's get in there. You can see our risk on screen now. Excellent stuff. So now we just got to hope that this run continues. Let's set our stop loss for these. So 4.7 was the ATR, so 9.4 stop loss here, 94 points, and also 2 times here. And we'll also set the trailing stop loss for that one. I'm going to custom that up as 94. And now take profit in here, 47. Let's see if we can snag that. It has got to break through the resistance level, but if it can search through, that would be nice. The concern to me here is that possibly this stop loss is a bit too tight now after this run up. The awesome oscillator getting across too late, and we might see a retracement that actually procs this stop loss, but then over the long term might keep on going. Not a psychic though, we'll trust the system and see how that goes. Nothing really happening on these other charts. You can see the Great British Pound, Japanese yen selling off a bit more, so really the right decision at the moment to get out of that trade. Then the stop loss did us well, even though it came back up. Euro Aussie dollar on the all-day range, nothing going on with it. Coming down a little bit, could drop off, but that won't be a signal for us. So we can focus back in on the New Zealand dollar, Swiss franc. Let's put the spotlight on that one. Here comes that weekly focus market report from the Central Bank of Brazil, and that Brazilian market report propelling our New Zealand dollar trade upwards into our favor. Let's keep that profit coming. Price pushing up now in our favor after taking a respite the last period. Coming back down a little bit, very close to our entry price at the moment as it just ticks up again. Let's have a look at these other charts. Yeah, the Euro Aussie dollar dropping off big time, so we are not going to get a signal out of there anytime soon, if at all today, to be honest. The pound yen though, price coming up the last few periods. 1 or 2 more green candles and that zero line crosser becomes near certain. It's going red at the moment, but there's a good chance it will be an option. For now though, let's get back in on the New Zealand dollar as price moves in our favour a touch more. Price making a little bit of a go towards our stop loss, but plenty of room still in it for us. Pound yen still edging closer to that zero line crossover. Could be in a buy trade there next few periods. Price running back nicely in our favour there on the New Zealand dollar, Swiss franc at 4 p.m. Let's have a look at our other charts here. This Great British Pound yen was looking like there was potential for a crossover on that awesome oscillator, but last 2 histogram bars there has come down a lot. Price below the EMA now. Still though, it's been very rangy, so I wouldn't be surprised to see these turn green in the near future. It is making lower lows though. Tough call if you are trading on this chart at the moment. And still nothing on the Euro Aussie dollar. Is getting a little bit closer to crossing above 0, but then that just gets us on alert for the recross below 0. So not a lot of action there. Everybody start buying some New Zealand dollars. Get rid of those Swiss francs. Get them gone. So there's real life consequences for testing our strategy on demo mode. Last couple candles though coming back towards the stop loss. Almost about 3/4 of the way towards it. Not looking promising at the moment. There's still a chance though. We remain hopeful. We put our faith in the awesome oscillator and we keep it there. And it does actually come back strongly for us there on that candle. Price seeming pretty uncertain right now, but hopefully that is its decision to go green and get up there. Let's have a look at these other charts. And now we have had the zero line crossover on the Euro Aussie dollar pair. Let's get a close look at that one. You can see it's gone positive, closed positive just there, but price has come back down. So there is a fair chance that this will recross 0 again if it doesn't get some movement in it. And we could well get a sell entry position on the Euro Aussie dollar. We'll keep a close watch on that one. And here comes the signal then on the Euro Aussie dollar. It has now gone beneath 0 there on the awesome oscillator, and price is well below the 200 exponential moving average. So if it closes like this, then we will be jumping in that trade for a sell-off of the euro against the Aussie dollar. It does look as though we're going to get a green candle on the Euro Aussie dollar. Let's take a look at this. Again, the close seems quite certain below 0 here. 45 seconds to go, so we'll pull up our ATR. ATR currently showing 6.6 pips, so that's what we'll go for. Stop loss at 2 times ATR value, so 13.2. Here's our risk calculated on screen now. Let's get straight in. There we are then, so we are in. We can call that stop loss there 132 points and call that take profit 66 points. And for this one here, we can set that at 132 points for the stop loss, and then also do our custom trailing stop loss here of 132 points as well. There we are. Let's zoom in right there. That is our sell trade. There is our take profit. Hopefully that is going to go to our favor. 2 trades open now. Back on the charts. In fact, let's close off this Great British Pound Japanese yen. Doesn't look anywhere near to giving us a signal as the sell-off of the pound continues. Actually turned out pretty good to get us out of that trade early from the way it's looking at the moment. So let's close that one and let's get those 2 across like that. This green candle here on the Euro Aussie dollar could prove to have given us a good entry position if the sell-off continues. It's always a little bit sketchy to get in right at this sort of level here if the momentum continues, because you feel at that stage like it's run out. Nevertheless though, it does move a little bit against us at the moment, and so too does the New Zealand dollar Swiss franc. Price here on both trades running up towards our stop loss, well, up towards the stop loss in the Euro Aussie dollar, down towards the stop loss New Zealand dollar Swiss franc. Neither of these looking particularly good for us at the moment. This awesome oscillator looks like it might have a lot to answer for when all is said and done. Really bearing down on that stop loss there over on the New Zealand dollar Swiss franc pairing. Not looking good at all. 5 periods in the row of selling off, and it really looks like it's going to take it here. And there goes the stop loss. We could never get to that 1 times ATR value. We do try and keep it tight to be able to get profits there and say, look, hey, we only want half the distance to be able to take a profit, then twice the distance for the stop loss. But tragically, this 0 line crossover on the awesome oscillator is just appearing far too slow. It'd be nice if we could be able to change it, but unfortunately there's no room for maneuver here. It's just the perfect indicator already. So yeah, that is full 1% from that. And we did say at the start, the entry didn't look great after this run-up of momentum here. But we were certainly hoping that with this consolidation and this run-up here, this was going to be a trend continuation. So now there's another loss for the awesome oscillator, yet to actually make us a profit in any trade. But we can always hope. Let's get onto the Euro Australian dollar chart. Let's bring that one up and we'll zoom straight in. How's it going? It is moving against us for about 1 times ATR towards the stop loss, so almost halfway there. Not feeling confident based on recent trade history, but let's keep rooting for that awesome oscillator. And incredibly, price has come back down and we are into a little bit of profit at the moment. Let's check on our other charts, see how they're going. No signal. That downward momentum continues on the New Zealand dollar Swiss franc. That awesome oscillator crossed below 0. So even if we hadn't got knocked out of that trade, we still would have closed it manually once this AO crossed 0 regardless. Great British Pound Japanese yen ranging the last hour or so. Looks like if it's going to go anywhere, it's going to go down though. Unlikely to see a signal from there for a good while. So let's get back on that Euro Aussie dollar. We are riding fully on this one now. No new signals for us, and price has been dawdling a little bit towards our stop loss on the Euro Aussie dollar here. It feels very deep in this range. Just a few minutes ago, where this candle has closed here, can't really see it just down here, but if we scroll over, we do see the awesome oscillator. In fact, did actually close just above 0. I didn't catch it straight away, but looking at it a little closer, and that is the case, which means our signal has reversed, and so we therefore have to manually drop out of these trades for one final loss of the day. So that is very unfortunate, not too surprising, to be honest, in the grand scheme of things, because of how incredibly rangy this price has been since way back up here. It had this trend up here, difficult to get anything from that as we wouldn't have been in, and then since then, barely moved price. So not quite a full 1% loss from that one, but still not very good at all. Most of the way there, in fact. And let's see, no other signals on this chart. There could be a buy trade coming soon on the Great British Pound Japanese yen, but I will have to leave that for every other trader in the world, as we are going to close up our session here. Had about 9 hours on the charts today, did get 3 trades. After the last session, the complaint from me then was that we weren't getting any trades. Well, we certainly did get some today, and they were all losers. None of them actually even getting to that 1 times ATR take profit. As I say, we really were trying to keep it tight to be able to squeeze out some profits for it. But when you're in a range, you are in a range. That will be it for session 4 though. Day 5 then, the last session for the awesome oscillator to be able to prove itself. Let's hopefully claw back at least some profits. Getting it all back seems extremely unlikely at this point, just over one session. So what would some of these recent trades look like? Not good on the Euro Aussie dollar. You'd have had a short around about here, and if you didn't get knocked out, then you would have actually closed it right up here anyway. That would have been poor. And then similarly over here, that awesome oscillator is getting you in right at the very bottom before it launches up. This is a bit of a wild card period. Not sure how that would have gone. Still not good there. What about over on our New Zealand dollar, Swiss franc? That one's not too bad actually. That one did get you in at the start of a run up there for about 13 pips or so. It either would have been a scratch for nothing gained, nothing lost, or maybe a little bit gained. We wouldn't have been in on this one though, because price hadn't closed across the average at that point. So this big drop, we would have ignored that, although that's potentially a stop loss getter anyway. Pound yen, it doesn't look as if we would have been in that run up either, because price was still below the average here where it closed. It did poke above it, but it closed below. And so this run up here, about 16, 17 pips, we would have missed that. No bueno. Fortunately, we just missed this signal. We would have been in here, and so we'd see this immediate reversal. Wow, 25 pip reversal there over an hour and a half. So very fortunate to not be in that one. Not a lot of love for us there on the Asian session if we had been trading that. Let's check out the economic calendar and see what's in there. Happy Brazilian Independence Day to all the Brazilians. Always bullish on an Independence Day from a colonial empire. What have we had though? 2:01 AM, very strange time to release a number there for the Great British Pound. It's the British Retail Consortium retail sales year on year. Terrible, actually. They expected 29.1% and they got 1.5. I could forecast it better, probably. I shouldn't put that in. Don't put that in. People don't like those. Yeah. Household spending in Japan down a little bit, 0.9% as expected. Chinese trade balance at 6:06 AM. Again, a very interesting time to release it. Lower than expected, but still very much net positive. Australian interest rates there held at 0.1%. No surprise there. And that would explain all this volatility here. What time was that? 7:30. So let's just have a look here. Yeah, 7:30 right there. And that's exactly what this volatility was. It's always strange when you see this wild volatility, like people just didn't expect interest rates to be held. Yeah. Swiss unemployment rate 2.9% against forecast 3%. Can't argue with 2.9%. It's a solid rate. Bit of a beat in the Eurozone for Germany on industrial production month on month and year on year. The month on month 1% against 0.1 and the year on year 5.7 against negative 1.6. Also at 9 AM we had the Halifax house price index month on month and year on year from the Great British Pound. 0.7% month on month for the increase and 7.1% on the yearly. That is quite an increase. And we saw nationwide recently, that was around about 11%, I think. So yeah, that's all that's happened so far. 12 o'clock, we got big numbers coming out of the Eurozone as a whole, employment change quarterly and yearly, and GDP quarterly and yearly too. There is a chance that we see some volatility off the back of that. Although because of the way the Eurozone is spread, we do see less on the Euro than we do on other currencies, like if the pound were releasing their employment numbers. But we will watch out for those numbers at 12 o'clock. And then 12:05, the Centre for Economic Research, the Economic Sentiment Indicator. It's where a lot of insurance companies and banks, finance companies, they get asked about their views on the economy, how they're feeling about it out there at the minute. So we could see a little bit of price sway on the euro again, but it could also just be baked into this. They're only 5 minutes apart with the GDP and employment change. Should be interesting to see what the impact is though. Those are all the ones that are going to affect us. There's nothing North American on at all today. 12:30, we've got South African GDP quarterly and yearly. That's the Rand. And then lastly, 5 o'clock in New Zealand, it is the measure of the price of dairy products over there by the global dairy trade. So just one major time slot for us to watch out for, 12 and 12:05 in that area there. If we're near to a trade, for example, if price comes down and this comes down as well, the awesome oscillator, and crosses below zero right as 12 o'clock is about to hit, that potentially won't feel great, but potentially it might feel really good as well. What else are we looking for? New Zealand dollar, Swiss franc. If price can get up, awesome oscillator can get up, head above the moving average and the zero line on the AO at the same time. Potential for a nice entry there. Still though, probably going to be a while. If we're looking at any, it's the pound Japanese pen over here on the right. Let's zoom in on this one and we can see We're coming up now 5 minutes until the close of this candle, which will show a 0 line crossover in the next candle. If that one closes at 11:15, 20 minutes from now, we will be in a buy trade here on the pound yen. Not sure how I feel about that, as it is going to test this resistance level and we could get in right at the top. Pound yen certainly didn't treat us well yesterday in our opening trade. But if the awesome oscillator sees it as bullish, then we go in as bullish. There's the close then, so we see the cross. Very likely we'll be in 15 minutes without a strong reversal. Definitely wouldn't mind seeing a red candle though now. Don't want to be right at the very top here. Really don't. Just a minute before the close now, and this has run up quite a bit in this candle. I'm glad it's come back down, but we are still very green. It's just making us less green than we were. Let's pull up our ATR. So it looks as though it's going to be a 9 pip ATR, which is 18 pips to our stop loss. There we go. There's the close. You can see our risk on screen now. And there's our buys. Let's put in our stop loss and take profit. So we've got 180 points there and 90 points there. There we go. We just need it to get to that area. It actually already went there, you see. So that high there actually poked through. If it could just get to that once more, that would be amazing. With this trade, let's set it here. 180 pips for the stop loss. And let's set a trailing stop loss at the 180. And we'll manually move it a little bit as we go. Let's just have a quick look at our other charts to make sure nothing major going on there. And these might be to watch, you know, though, in the next few periods. Euro Aussie dollar coming down, and with a few red candles, that will cross below the moving average, as well as the awesome oscillator crossing below zero. Vice versa for the New Zealand dollar, Swiss franc. Price continuing its rise here. If it gets above the average and the awesome oscillator, well, we got ourselves a trade then. But let's get back into our Great British Pound and Japanese Yen, where we actually do have a trade right now. Bit of profit at the moment, very nice to see. Here we go, getting very close to the stop loss there, just a bit more selling pressure, and it will kick it over there. We're about 1.5 periods into our trade. That is it, there it goes. And that is a maximum loss for us in record time by the awesome oscillator for us so far. 21 minutes, that's all we were in there. We had a 2 times ATR stop loss, and 2 periods after we entered, or 1.5 periods after we entered, it did make it through there. Yeah, not a good sign. That's even more money now we've got to make back. I wonder if this is good that we got out earlier, or if we do see a reversal. Yeah, obviously pretty disappointing though to see the awesome oscillator get us in at the exact worst time, really. Actually, that's not true. That's not true, because this would have been the exact worst time here, but it still would have been a 1% loss all the same, as price continues to drop down heavily here. Let's see these other charts. Yeah, the Euro Aussie dollar and the New Zealand dollar Swiss franc both now moving away from the entry signals. It's very possible that we actually get a sell signal here from the pound yen. This is low momentum on the awesome oscillator, and if it keeps coming down, particularly if it stays around about this support level and consolidates for a bit, there's a good chance we'll get a 0 line crossover before it decides to either reverse back up or, in the unlikely fashion, continue a downward trend. We do get that 0 line cross on the awesome oscillator here, 11:30 on the Great British Pound Japanese Yen pair. If it closes like this in 15 minutes, then we will be in a sell trade. 30 seconds until the close here. Let's get that ATR up. Currently at 10.1 pips, so that'll be 20.2 to our stop loss. Our risk is calculated on screen now. There we go. How do we feel about these ones? Mixed. I'm sort of expecting a price bounce, but we haven't seen a trend in a while, so maybe we do get lucky now. Let's set our stop loss and take profit. So here we go, 202 and half of that for the profit, 101. And on this one, 202, and we'll set the trailing stop loss at 202. There it is. Let's just have a quick look at those other charts. Euro been getting stronger on the left-hand side here. So again, moving further from an entry signal. We've still got those numbers coming out at 12 o'clock for them. Could bring it back down if it's particularly weak for the euro across the board. Poor sentiment perhaps. And New Zealand dollar Swiss franc not doing much at the moment, not super volatile. Did come back down from that move, and now it's sort of just hovering, so could go either way, but probably a while into the signal there. Let's hone back in on our pound yen, where we can see price going straight back up towards that stop loss of ours. Surprisingly here, price moving to our favor, about halfway to the take profit level at the moment. Back it comes though. Let's get onto the tri-chart setup so we can see these numbers coming for the EU. That's employment and GDP quarterly, yearly, and then in 5 minutes, the Centre for Economic Research in Germany, the economic sentiment indicator. What's their economic sentiment like in the financial world there? There's our figures then. Employment change in the Eurozone quarterly, 0.7% actual against 0.5% forecast. Yearly, 1.8 against 1.8. GDP quarterly, 2.2 against 2.0. And yearly, 14.3 versus 13.6. So not too shabby against expectations. Still though, it's not like a full throttle recovery over there. Not really seeing much increase in volatility or volume off the back of these numbers. Coming in as expected. As I say, people generally not that fussed about trading Eurozone numbers because of how many different countries they cover. 12 then, here comes the economic sentiment. And these are coming in as big misses compared to the forecast. Sentiment indicator in Germany, they had it 52.1. It was about half of that, 26.5. So they didn't even forecast them to be that optimistic, and they are really not optimistic. Yeah, poor conditions according to the financial sector in Germany. Their economic situation as well, there was 31.9 against a forecast of 47.6. And then even Euro-wide, way out, 31.1 versus 52.2 predicted. Poor numbers there for the economic outlook in Germany and Europe, but still not really seeing any volatility or volume increase on the chart at the moment. So with all that clear, let's get back onto this British pound yen, where our trade is. It's still hovering just around our entry price there. We're a little bit in profit and a little bit in loss now. Just about to roll over 1 o'clock then. 1 hour and 15 minutes in the trade so far, pretty much entirely around our entry price. Real move towards the take profit level here. Just a few more pips and we could get there. And there it goes. Wowza. Holy moly. Actually getting a trade that does take that 1 times ATR. Whew. I'm impressed. So now we can change this and we can cut that in half right there to 101. So now that's 1 times ATR. We still have got this trading stop loss in. So if we get 2 times ATR in favor, this will be removed and it will automatically at that point turn to a trading stop loss where every time it ticks forward, so too does the trading stop loss. Good stuff. Wasn't expecting that, to be fair. It's getting very close to losing all faith entirely in the awesome oscillator. So it's going to claw back a little bit of my trust there, but still a long way to go. Let's see if we can get that trading stop loss up here and get some guaranteed profit for the trade. At the moment, we're just looking at a chalk off, apart from maybe a little bit of loss on commission. We want that guaranteed profit. Let's get there. And there we go, folks. That is the trading stop loss kicking in right there. Our white whale has finally come. We are in guaranteed profit for this trade. And it just goes to show perseverance. We traded for 4 days straight and we didn't have a trade that was in profit. But here we are, day 5, and the awesome oscillator coming through for us here. Even if price completely reverses and bumps off this stop loss here, we still take profit. Price continuing to the good here on our trade as nothing else goes on these other charts still. So we're all in on the pound yen at the minute. Let's get some more lows. If we can get this price even low, get this trading stop loss ticking, get ourselves into some serious gains. At the moment, we'd need this to get to about $430 to wipe off all of our losses so far on this strategy. I'm believing that it can happen. There come these lows and the trading stop loss does move with it. Definitely in some comfortable profits now. Yeah, look at that move. That is really nice. And the stop loss is going to bump here. There it is. There's the bump there. A lot of selling pressure coming here. It's exactly what we want to see. Really nice. Just gone 2:45 now. Price had been ranging for the last 45 minutes, a little bit more. Now it's found new lows again. Hopefully let's get another red one here as this stop loss advances more in our favor. Let's have a look at the other charts, and nothing for us on the euro Aussie dollar. But if we have a look at this New Zealand Swiss franc, what we are seeing is a zero line crossover on the awesome oscillator here. Assuming it is going to close above zero, we would need for price to get all the way above the average for us to be able to get in on that one. So it seems unlikely at the moment, but not impossible. There's a big green candle there if they had another one of those. could close above. So we'll certainly be checking in on that one at 3 o'clock. But let's get back onto our winning trade at the moment, the pound yen. New lows again for us on our trade here. Price does pull back a bit, but our stop loss has advanced and we are well past the initial take profit point there for our first sub trade. So a lot of profits to be had out of this one. Let's see how that New Zealand dollar Swiss franc is finishing up. Yeah, it does look as though it is going to close above zero, but price is not going to make it anywhere near to getting above that moving average. So we won't have a signal there by the look of it. And so there it does close without giving us a signal. Let's get back onto that pound yen chart. Price really nearing our stop loss here, 3:38 in the afternoon. There it does just trigger, it ticks over there. That is our stop loss, so it does go, but that was a nice trade. And we managed to eke out more profits with this trading stop loss than with that regular stop loss trade. Let's take a look at that on the history. Pretty near to 2 times ATR in the end is where we got. It did stretch out even further, but that is the risk you take. You don't really expect to ever get out right at the bottom with this kind of stuff. With the trend stop loss, there's always going to be some form of retracement there. Pretty happy to have that trade though. Finally a positive one, finally a bit of profits, and it actually gets to demonstrate what this thing is meant to do. It does seem like rare circumstances that it actually happens, but that is the intent of the awesome oscillator there, to try and find some trends. Pretty pleased with that. Nothing going on the other charts at the moment. Price coming down on the euro Aussie dollar. Again, if the AO crosses below zero and price crosses the moving average, there's a possible trade entry there, but for now, doesn't look like we're going to be seeing one soon without some extreme movements. 4:30 here now, not much going on with these charts. Don't really see a signal on the horizon. We might get a zero line crossover on the euro Aussie dollar over here on the left, but it looks like that would happen before the price got anywhere near the moving average. So not looking good there. Price coming up pretty sharp on the Great British Pound yen on the far right. Again, that could be the likeliest signal. If it boosted up a couple more candles like that, could end up back on a buy signal over on this chart. But at the moment, yeah, nothing really happening for us. And the price of the Great British Pound has been pumping up against the Japanese yen, almost above the moving average now. This awesome oscillator looking to get above zero. It just really needs one more solid green candle there, and that is a full entry signal. So there could still be a little bit of action left in the day. And we see we did get the zero line crossover. However, price came back down the last 2 periods over here. That pound yen selling off again against the pound. So no entry signal for us there. I do think at that stage, 5:30 now, we are going to leave the session there for the day. So that is the end of our final session. This one doesn't seem to have gone too well, but let's check in the journal just to make sure of that. Here is that journal then. Let's scroll down just a little bit so we can see all of our trades here. There is that winner. That is our golden star right there. The only shimmering light. There's a touch of green there. That was no profit, no loss. Everything else, complete loss. So we traded 8 trades over 5 days. So you're looking at 1 or 2 a day and a total loss of $427.79. So that is the bottom line, and it does not look good. Starting balance of $8,220 down to a closing balance of $7,832. We started the strategy first day with 2 losing trades there. They were both maximums in that rangy pound yen. Then we got 1 trade the day after on the euro Aussie dollar. Managed to snag up those profits quick, but couldn't get a full trend going. Session 3, no trades at all, so nothing recorded in here for that. Session 4, 3 straight losing trades, 1 on each of the currency pairs. That was our worst day right there, our low point. Day 5 did get a little bit worse with these at the beginning, but we end in glory. Overall though, very disappointed and hurt by the awesome oscillator zero line crossover entry signals. And you can see they leave us bleeding here out of our account. Not a good strategy based on performance. Let's take it to our final thoughts. Last chance now for us to express our opinion on this. Obviously, based on the results we've seen, it didn't work well. Of the 5 sessions we traded the strategy, the best session was the one where we didn't get any signals all day. So what do we think is most at fault here with the strategy? I'm going to have to pin a lot of that blame on the awesome oscillator. The zero line crossover did not give us good entry signals here as it responds far too slowly. When the price is in a range, which is pretty often, the awesome oscillator keels over and tells you to get in a move just as it's ending. You're then stuck with with a trade that is instantly reversing against you. If you don't have a money management system in place, your psychology comes into play, and that's where things can get difficult. Frustration, anger, confusion, margin call. As you've seen, only 2 of our 8 trades were even able to make it 1 times ATR value in favor from our entry price. The other 6, however, were able to reverse for twice that distance. But were our actual entries executed through the indicators the way that those indicators were always meant to be used? Traders may feel that this strategy is going to work better on a higher time frame like the daily. Yeah, it is possible that it works better, but is it going to work? Based on this testing, I would say still probably not. The zero line crossover simply doesn't seem feasible for making consistent money over time. And there's a lot of you now that I'm sure are saying, well, it's not meant to be used much as a zero line crossover. In his book, Mr. Bill talks about the saucer strategy and the Twin Peaks strategy. And you're right, those entry signals could be worth a go too. We haven't tried those ones today. What I will say though is that nearly every financially irresponsible 21-year-old that sets up on a trading platform for the first time and decides that this inaccurately named clickbait indicator known as the awesome oscillator could actually be worth giving a go, they are going to see and trade on a zero line crossover, because that is what is thrown in their face as the key part of the indicator. Of course, I'm sure if confronted about it, the defenders would start to ramble on about profitability and the use more than just the crossover, yada 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 yada. Alright, the money management wasn't terrible, but I'm a bit mixed on it all. I don't think it's worth much to change the take profit because it barely got there at 1 times ATR value already. But maybe you want to tighten up that stop loss. I do think there's a fair argument for removing the trailing stop loss though. Even after it grabbed us a bit more profits on today's winning trade, it inevitably always cuts some price off at the end. So if you're using something like a ratio, you're more likely to get out at the top or get out at the bottom, because a trailing stop loss, it's never going to go all the way. By definition, it is going to trail back. So even though the money management isn't awful, I'm going to say it, something here feels like it could be improved upon. At least we managed to keep our risk low at the 1% capital per trade. It means that we didn't destroy our account with all our losses, but we certainly lost enough to put us off trading this strategy anymore. That is it. If you do want more information, you may find a bit of that in the video description. Thank you for watching. This is Project Trade, and I am the man with the iron chart. There will be more.